Welcome back to the Pit Stop Ranch. In response to our incredibly popular and globally well received recent video discussing replacing the wheel cylinders on BJ, I felt it was only appropriate that we go ahead and follow up that video with another one to capitalize on its success. Please don't mind the sarcasm. A question came back from a viewer regarding the part numbers for the parts we used on that project, and that kind of, I provided the actual part numbers in the response to the commenter. You can look in the comments in that video to see what those are. But given the limited space, it wasn't there was a lot more discussion that went into it. And the reality is, like many project vehicles, especially of the Jeep Persuasion, many different people over the years, when it was just a cheap 4x4, would do all sorts of random strange stuff to it to improve its performance. It has a power steering conversion which makes noise and actually made the turning radius kind of actually pretty crappy. But the other thing was, we looked up the specific parts according to the internet that are supposed to be on it, the actual wheel cylinders, and so we ordered those. And when we got them, in the process, the actual, I don't know how well it comes through in the video, but it was actually like a week and a half elapsed time in the filming of that video. And then because nothing lined up, nothing worked, nothing matched. And so it was a case where we ordered what, according to the internet, was appropriate for a 1968 CJ5 with the Dauntless V6. And there were a couple choices to be had, but we based upon the best information we had about the vehicle, we ordered what we thought we needed, and it was wrong. So then we examined what was there. And for example, this master cylinder doesn't match the two options, a single pot and a dual circuit, that was available at the time. It is for something else. So we ended up searching for that and finding it. And on all of this stuff, if you look carefully, there are numbers available on there. I don't know how you can see that on there. See if maybe I lighten this up. If you look right here, there's a part number stamped in it, and they're stamped. If the number is stamped, it's a part number or a serial number. However, if it is cast in, it's a casting number. And so based upon that information, some internet searches, you can figure out what you're looking at. So we ordered the parts according to the internet, and when those arrived, we matched them to what we took off. And these are what we took off. These are the ones that were on there, and quite honestly, they can be cleaned, rebuilt, and reused. In fact, a few of them look actually fairly new. These two here look pretty new. But if you notice, these are significantly smaller. Now, these are for the rear, and you want a little less action happening on the rear than you do the front, because you want the fronts to lock up before the rears do. Because if the rears lock up, then you spin around and you crash and die, especially in a lifted CJ5. However, anyways, doing our check, we went ahead and then took these casting numbers to our local Napa and found examples, alternatives to them at our local Napa, and went ahead and ordered those. But what ended up happening was the ones that we ordered online we ended up using what came for the rear end in the front of BJ, and the ones meant for the rear, was that right? We put the rears from one vehicle in the front of BJ, and we put the fronts from another vehicle in the rear of BJ, resulting in kind of a hodgepodge of parts. Now, right now, it stops just fine. It does feel a little less than ideal, what you would expect coming from a lot of other vehicles. So there's a portion of us who are wondering if maybe these need to go into the front of it, or if we need to do some other changes. But because it's a hodgepodge of parts that was on the vehicle from many different vehicles, i.e. the front, the rear cylinders, which I'm not sure which ones are the rears and which ones are the fronts, but the rear cylinders were actually front cylinders for an F100 with the Dana front for a 4x4 F100 with the Dana 44 front axle. And that was in the rear and that's what we put into the rear of BJ once again. So I think one point I would like to make is, first off, in the life of a vehicle, 50 odd years old, 5 times past its design life, identifying and finding specific parts can be challenging. 1, 2. In that time, well-meaning people will do their best to update it to make it better according to the ideas of the time, and therefore update, retrofit onto it more contemporary components to improve performance. It's exactly what a lot of us do presently, even though where it made all the sense at the time, those decisions will result in future owners of the vehicle scratching their heads and wondering what the heck were they thinking. Furthermore, OEs of this time, you have a different track record on record keeping. BJ was built by the Kaiser Motor Company in 1968. Now, almost none of you probably have ever heard of the Kaiser Car Company, for good reasons. It only existed, it came into existence in the late 40s, right after the war, and by 1968 decided really maybe they should move out. And by 1970 they had sold the car component of the company to AMC, and which Jeep is the only survivor of that sale transaction. Smaller car companies globally, and this is exceeding, and maybe it changes for other nations, but definitely in the United States, smaller car companies sometimes didn't do as good a job documenting and providing all the information to, or the availability of documentation isn't as high as it is for the larger companies, GM, Ford, to a lesser extent Chrysler, where you can, they had an army of clerks and technical writers that they employed to keep track of this stuff, where if you're a smaller company, something like that costs money and therefore maybe not happen. As a result, internet says these are the stock ones for the rear. Are they actually the stock ones for the rear? Heck if I know. The Napa ones that we picked up, made in China, we know for sure because the mounting bolts are metric. These are theoretical ones for the front. This is part of the part number puzzlery that you have to go through using all the resources you have available to you. Fortunately, our Napa, the fine professionals behind the counter, tinker and work on old cars themselves, so they understand and have a very good track record of being able to track down this obscure, weird stuff. Furthermore, like I think was mentioned in the video, certain components like the master cylinder and these cylinders were bought on Summit, and their Crown Automotive reproductions of what supposedly should be there. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this brief little meandering supplemental video, and look forward to seeing you guys next time. If you like what we do, please hit the like button. If you want to support us in our efforts and you haven't done it already, please subscribe. Thank you very much.